Welcome to the Reel Study with your hosts, Mr. Snitbits,
I was pleasantly surprised.
Black Girl Marvel,
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tyler the Filmmaker,
It's like so much depth. It's like nowadays it's, you got A shot, B shot.
all the movie things,
There's some great wide shots in this.
Janine DeBean,
Each other, they just kind of look like they were having fun and doing their own thing.
produced by Hyena, and me, the Reel Study movie voice guy.
But this was the first time where I got to see it told in a way where I was like, oh man.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Slogans.
Welcome to the Reel Study. I am Mr. Snidbits. Tonight I've got with me all the movie things, Janine the Bean. We've got the voice of the Reel Study with us tonight, Cell Phone Wallet and Keys, and our returning special guest, Will Wilkins. We, of course, are on week 3 of the Kevin Smith month. We'll be doing Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That stars Jay Muse, Kevin Smith, and Will Ferrell, all directed and written by Kevin Smith. And then Zack and Miri make a porno, or, well, depending on what state you're in, it might just be Zack and Miri. That is, of course, starring Elizabeth Banks, Seth Rogen, and written and directed by Kevin Smith. Next week will be our final Kevin Smith month, where we will be doing, where we'll be doing Red State and Tusk. So we're going to get onto his horror and see how that goes for everybody. And I know there's a couple people that have not seen Tusk, so that should be interesting.
Oh boy.
Right. That said, let's move on over to the main wall and let's make sure everybody knows that you can go ahead and follow us on every single social media platform, including Blue Sky, which is, of course, the new big social media platform where everybody's jumping over to.
Nice.
We're there. We're everywhere. So please do give us a follow. Do look for some more announcements for next month. We've got some cool things we're going to be doing then, as well as a couple of special episodes with some special guests. So we'll get to that. That said, the very first thing we always do on the show is say hello to our guests. We technically have 2 because Keys is very rarely here with us. So why don't we just go ahead and start with Cell Phone Wallet and Keys. It's been a while. Good to see you on the show. How have things been and what are you working on?
Things are great, man. Super busy, which is a good thing, but sometimes a bad thing. Yeah, I've been working a lot with Nerd Initiative, Play for Keeps show we got running every Monday night now, where we talk to collectibles and toys and stuff like that. Also, I have a podcast called Be Action. It's a kind of like a subsection of Give Me Back My Action in horror movies. So we do that every other week, where I'm getting to watch a lot of old action movies that I either love or missed, and I'm very happy to find them. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Nice.
That's awesome. And Will, of course, is the main person on Netheads podcast, as well as the CTO for Kevin Smith's SMODCO. Anything new in production this week, or is it just same old, just kind of doing the podcast?
Oh, just same old, same old. I'm well behind on 2 editing projects so far, so that is a great way to go into Sunday. So, hey, message me on Blue Sky, that Will Wilkins as well. Anytime, if you're on the East Coast, anytime after 11 p.m. And on the West Coast, obviously, do the math. Because you'll pretty much be able to interact and distract me from probably that work that I'm doing. But other than that, no, it's life is normal. It's extremely normal, aside from as everyone before we started got to hear about my exciting life of hanging overhead storage in my garage. So this is officially my break from that. So
Yeah.
That goes to show how much I love being here with you guys. So thank you.
Yes.
We like to break up the monotony for you, so we appreciate having you. Janine, how you doing this week?
I'm doing okay. Lots of noir films I've been watching, celebrating Noirvember. For people who don't know, I co-host a classic films podcast. So we are dedicated to advocating for those films and sharing them around. So Noirvember is a huge month for us. So I've had a blast just delving into some new media that I've never seen before, and have found some really interesting kind of B-tier noirs, some great actors in those films that are new to me in the classic film space. So it's been really fun just kind of checking out some new things. The newest movie I watched was Too Late for Tears. And the lead actress in that film is great. Elizabeth Scott. The film follows a couple who are driving to a party when a car kind of madly drives past them and throws something in the backseat of their car. When they look at what it is, it's a bag full of cash. So they take it home and they have to decide what they want to do with it. The wife, she wants to keep it. The husband, he wants to take it to the police, but he kind of submits to what she wants. And so they decide to kind of hide the money and spend it when it's safe. But there's really no time for that because the owner of the money had seen their license plate and finds them. And he ends up getting into a little bit of a back and forth with the wife on how to handle this situation. She's withholding the money from him. He wants to get it back. So she kind of, for like a quiet little housewife, this criminal character is very impressed by how she's trying to kind of handle him in this situation. So she kind of steps into some really dark places because she becomes obsessed with keeping this money to the point where she's even kind of scaring this criminal in how she's in the things that she does to hang on to it. Her husband's sister is suspicious of her. Her husband's suspicious of her. So she's really kind of going to some crazy lengths for this money, and it gets very twisted. So it's a really great story. I really enjoyed this film.
Interesting. Okay.
What year was that released?
I think it's 1954.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
Yes.
There was a lot of money movies, I think, back then.
Yeah.
Weirdly, but I think I totally understand why. Brian, I didn't get to say how you doing. I know you didn't see any movies this week, but I still wanted to just check in. How you doing this week?
Doing good. Yeah.
Good.
Hanging in there.
Anything movie related, fun related that you want to bring up?
No, just excited I got Gladiator 2 seeing at an IMAX, and then taking my parents to see Wicked.
Nice.
So that'll be fun on Friday.
Good double feature.
Yeah,
That should be fun.
I'll be busy, but
Nice.
yeah, should be fun.
Lala, good to see you here. How are you doing this week? He is muted. All right, we'll move back to Mickey. You did see a movie this week that you wanted to talk about. It's a Lou Ferrigno film, Cage. Tell us about Cage.
I did. This is a 1989 film starring Lou Ferrigno and Reb Brown, who, if you don't know, is like the B action movie guy, right? So this is one of those movies that somehow I missed it, and it's really a diamond in the rough because I got to be honest with you, this is the best acting I've ever seen Lou Ferrigno do, right? It's really good. Two brothers, well, not brothers, they're friends. It starts out there in Vietnam War. One of them gets a brain injury, but he saves the other guy anyway, even though he's like bleeding out and dying. But he survives, and they become like real close. And Reb Brown's character feels like he has to take care of Lou Ferrigno's character, who's kind of brain damaged, right? But he's still Incredible Hulk, man. He's huge. He's almost like a man child, but he's a really nice guy. You have to like do something to make him snap. And some guys get in trouble with some money and some underground cage fighting. They see that these two guys own a bar, and they're pretty good at like cleaning house when there's trouble. And they trick Lou Ferrigno's character into getting in the cage and fighting for them so they could, pay off some debts and make some more money. And it goes all over the place, crazy. There's so many like threads being woven in and out, but somehow it works. I was very surprised. I was like, there's a lot going on here, but it's working. It gets pretty. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. I see the cage on the cover, and that's a huge part of the film. Like it really does like get really guttural in the cage. I'm just curious because it just sounds like fun.
Oh yeah, it gets pretty brutal, pretty violent. Actually, you know what's crazy though? The cage is more like a third part of the movie. Like there's a lot of other stuff going on. So it can be kind of misleading when you're talking about Cage, and you see that movie poster. And we talked about that on our podcast. Like the poster's a little misleading because it's a little more of like a drama as opposed to like a hardcore action movie or anything. But there are some really gruesome, violent scenes that kind of reminded me of like Scarface or stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was a great ride, and it had like a pretty cool message along the way. It's kind of heartwarming. There was a couple times where I was like, I might cry. I don't know. Lou Ferrigno was so sad, when he's like, because he has to fight, but he doesn't want to. He don't want to hurt anybody, but It's like once you're in there, it's like you're gonna die if they're gonna kill you or you kill them.
Right.
So he has to
Yeah,
do
no,
what he
that's
has to
brutal.
do, and it ended up being really good. I was very pleasantly surprised.
Nice.
A good recommendation from the voice of the Real Study. I got to see Transformer 1, which I know we talked about on the podcast, I don't know when it came out in theaters, but I actually got to sit down this afternoon and watch it, and this was way better than I thought it was going to be. Like, I expected good,
That's what
but
I'm hearing. Yeah.
it's like good, like good,
really
good.
good.
Like, yeah.
I stumbled on it too. Actually, I literally just watched it.
That's awesome. I don't like prequels. Like, it's kind of a rule for me. I think they're very hard to write well because you can't get as much suspense or anticipation because you know what's going to happen to the main characters.
Mhm.
And with this movie, they have everybody, so you know what's going to happen to all the characters. But it's more like piecing together a puzzle, which is really different. You get to kind of see how the building blocks lie, and you get to understand why Megatron always says "old friend," and like that to me was very cool. I don't know. I wish they would have had this movie when I was a kid. I'd been like, "Whoa, Transformers!" Like, not that I didn't love Transformers the movie or the cartoon or even the Michael Bay movies are fine. But this tops all of Michael Bay movies. This is a solid
It's
film.
pretty great. Yeah.
Like, and I'm not trying to hype it up too much. It's really just that. It is that fun and good.
Brian Tyree is amazing in that.
Little fun things, little Easter eggs thrown in.
Yeah, there's so many fun. Like, I thought I was like laughing out loud.
Yeah.
At moments, and I was like, man, it's like way funnier than I was expecting it to be. Like, and then all of a sudden, it's just like crazy action. It's like,
and like really, it gets really real. Like, it gets hardcore, and you're like, wait a minute, this is making me have real feelings about real world stuff. And this is like
robots,
tired robots, in another planet.
And Bumblebee.
It does feel like they could do another one, like right after this, and kind of fill in more gaps, which is great. I don't want to say too much more because I do think everybody should watch this. I don't normally advocate for like Transformers movies, but please give this a try. Law, did you get a chance to watch anything? I thought you had told me you did not.
I watched Irish Wish.
Irish Wish. I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, it's a Netflix. It's a Netflix little lovey-dovey with Lindsay Lohan and Ed Spielers, who I realized I'm like, why does this man look familiar? And he was the lead in Aragon, and I was like, where you been, sir? I was like, where in the world have you been? But it was cute. It wasn't what I thought it was gonna be, which was very nice. I went in thinking like, oh, she's like an editor, writer. She's going to write a book called The Irish Wish based on like what she'd been through. And I was wrong. So I was like, good on me for being wrong. That felt nice. It was a fun little rom-com with some sci-fi thrown in there. She kind of it's kind of like it's a Wonderful Life, but if you wanted to be married to somebody that you were infatuated with, essentially. And this shows like the other side of like how you wanting something can hinder other people who like were on the path to be together, on a path to meet each other. So it was like a very interesting take on a story, on a plot that has been done a billion trillion times. But it was still fun. It still had like some little, quippy things. And shout out to Lindsay Lohan. She was great in that. I enjoyed it. It was very much like, I think she has another one on Netflix or something. And I was like, I'll give it a go.
Too.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's a Christmas one on Netflix. So I'm like, I think I'm gonna do a Christmas December. I'll watch a Netflix lovey Christmas movie every day.
That's my thing. I'll do reviews on those like crazy Netflix or Prime holiday movies.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna do that in December because they just seem like so fun. And this film just felt fun to watch, something that you really didn't have to put too much thought into. But it would still like have some fun, like some cute fun moments. And
watch the Freddie Prinze one if that's a cute one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I'm digging like all those like little ones. But yeah, go see Irish Wish. It wasn't a bad little watch.
I want to plug Noelle with what is her name? Why is my brain just
Anna Kendrick?
Thank you, with Anna Kendrick. People give that movie crap. I don't know why. I absolutely love
it. Was a phenomenal
that movie.
film.
Yeah,
that was
great
a great
holiday
film.
So
yes, it is. I agree. I second that motion. Go watch it.
I have to check it out.
You should.
You
Yeah,
do
if you
it,
like
you
Anna
do-
Kendrick
you
even a
do
little
it.
bit, it's fun. It's sweet. She comes from the North Pole. Very cool stuff. Anyway, Will, did you want to tell us what you thought about Transformers 1 since you did get a chance to see it?
Oh, hey, yeah. I love talking. Actually,
You come to the right
the
place.
whole
we
thing
could
is,
tell.
I
We could tell.
oh,
Even more than
when the
building
truth is
racks.
both funny but also cuts deep.
It's my middle name.
I actually started. I did not watch this movie the way I normally would watch a movie. But during the weekends, my daughter and I camp downstairs where she sleeps on the couch and probably gets to stay on devices a little bit later than she should. And, you know, I am on an air mattress, usually watching TV some way.
How
And
old is
so she is 10. Yeah, it's
Okay.
she's 32. No.
Yeah, that'd be
It's like,
hilarious.
it's like one is still endearing, one there's issues that you need to really have sought out. But when I put it on last night, which I normally would not do. I would put on something familiar because I know I'm about to drift off to La La Land. And with this
Yes.
movie, I did the exact. I put it on and I got about halfway through until I recognized I'm going to be going away soon. So I stopped it, and then this morning restarted it. And I have to say that it was, I think, with the inconsistencies kind of in what we might have called the DCU before this, I think that's kind of just opened us up, at least for me, to more of a just kind of open concept universe, right? So it's a Transformers thing, but it doesn't have to connect if you don't want it to or need it to with anything you remember of the past or anything that's happened in the Bayverse of and beyond for Transformers. You know, I thought this thing was almost an excellent merge of something for almost those of us that are nostalgic for the Transformers cartoon, while being an energetic story for kids to be able to come into and obviously launch a new line of toys. So, you know, it kind of hit both beats really well. And it was just a story that I kind of liked the way it played out. Yeah, it was a little predictable and maybe a little cliche in a few points. But it brought enough new and original stuff as well to make it entertaining. You know, as it turns out who the villain is. It's amazing the character choice that they made there, because I was just going to be, I was like, this is the guy that knows he's the most evil person in the room, and he is just hamming it up like a car salesman.
Totally.
No pun
Oh my
intended.
God. Yeah.
No pun intended. So, and you know, like
Yeah.
like a very Richard Dawson-esque Family Feud host, if you will. And I was just like, that's such a unique take for us that are into like cinema and film to be able to just make that choice, because that way that really is what really hooked me for just like staying in. And then the turns it took, I really liked it. It was very pleasant, and it healed that child of mine, my inner child that watched the Transformers cartoons, probably a little older than he should have been watching the Transformers cartoons.
No, nobody's too old for cartoons. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it was a good ride. I didn't even expect it. I really could have
good
just
ride.
said all of that in 5 seconds instead of 5 minutes.
You,
Sorry.
you got like 3 puns in there, so that was. That was
I didn't
solid.
even mean to.
Yeah, no. Good ride. I love it. So Z in the comments asked what version of Bob you have behind you there.
Oh, that's the same. It's the exact same one you have.
Okay.
As I made mention, I'm involved in a garage project, which means you end up getting boxes open, and it's like, oh, that's where these are. And lo and behold, since you showed me yours, I thought I'd show you mine. And as I mentioned, mine has the variant where if you turn his arm up, it looks like the peace symbol, but you lean his arm forward, and it most definitely holding a cigarette. So,
oh yeah, no, I actually I cut down like a little rod at one point and shoved it in between his fingers so that he was holding a cigarette, but I lost that somewhere. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm of the inverse. So we could have a hand exchange program if we ever want to enjoy
Bob's across America, right?
You know what? I don't even know how to finish that sentence. So let's move on.
All right, we will move on. So we've actually got a few news stories this evening, and we will get into those now.
Now it's time for the
All right. So the very first news story that I have is Prime is actually releasing on December 10th a new anthology series. So this is technically TV, but it could turn into movies. So we'll see. They've got 15 episodes for these video game IPs they have, from God of War, Pac-Man, Dungeons and Dragons, you name it. There's a lot of things on this list. Mega Man, Unreal Tournament, etc. I can go through the whole list if you want. Essentially, they've got Arnold Schwarzenegger and Keanu Reeves playing some of the parts in these, and what they're doing is 15 to 20-minute episodes so that they can almost test market these to see if they're worth building out
putting all of this into. Okay.
Right, which I think is a brilliant idea, and we're going to get all sorts of different little fun things, and it's almost like we get to vote with our views to see what they'll do, which is unique, and I think kind of a clever new way to really approach media, right? One of the things they listed was PlayStation, which I'm like, okay, what does that mean? That's that could be anything. Spelunky could be interesting. Armored Core, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer 40,000. Now that one, I think people are going to be really excited.
It's going to be good.
So you see, I knew people would be pretty excited.
I'll personally fund a Mega Man movie if they want to make that.
Yeah, it's Mega Man is on the list. So
I love to see that.
I hope they keep it like, he needs to be tiny. It needs to have that same look,
same music.
Yes.
Yes.
That music was so good.
100%. So it sounds like everybody thinks this might be interesting, at least. Bare minimum.
That's cool. Yeah.
And you can see the posters there. They've got some pretty good animation going for these. Story number 2. They finished Rust, the Alec Baldwin film that had the tremendous controversy around it, where Helena Hutchins was fatally wounded on the set. Of course, we all got to see that all play out. Alec Baldwin was completely let go of any charges, thank God. At least from my perspective, I should say. But now that they were able to continue the film, they are going to be presenting it, I think, at a Polish film festival. And it looks like any proceeds from the film are going to go to Hutchins' son, Andros, who was 9 when she perished. So that was 3 years ago. So he's 12 now, but he should be getting all the benefits from the proceeds. But apparently, it looks like the writer-director, who was never a producer, just kind of had to pick up the reins of being a producer, picked up a new cinematographer. They grabbed a few people, right? Grabbed some fake guns and ran with it. So we'll see what that looks like. Last really quick story. This is ridiculous. Idle Hands is being remade, and as a person, of the 90s, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm not sure how anybody feels, but
necessary. But
right.
I don't know. We'll see. Could be good. Could be like every other remake where the new generation loves it and then the last generation might hate it.
Right.
What I found most interesting was I saw Devon Sawa
gave his approval
talking about it. And he said that his kid walked up and was like, "Hey, do you know they're making a new Idle Hands movie with Finn Wolfhard?"
Finn Wolfhard,
yeah. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I was Anton in Idle Hands," and the kid was like, "Right, sure, Dad." Yeah. And just walked away. So yeah, we'll see where that ends up. I'm open to remakes. I think they're a great thing because you never know what you're going to get out of them. So
and this film didn't really get a good shot because of all the censorship that was happening at the time. So
and it is a pretty gritty film for being a horror comedy. It's weirdly gritty. All right, so that's the news. That means we do have 2 movies to talk about this evening. These are the Kevin Smith films. So the first film we're going to go into is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This is a 2001 release. This is the 5th film in the View Askew-niverse, where we now finally get to follow those side characters through their own adventures. Keys, what do you think of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
So when you told me to be on this one, I was like, I don't even have to watch it because I've probably seen it 50 to 100 times. Funny enough, this is one my 2 little brothers, who were way too young to be watching it, would watch it every night all summer long, and I would sit right there and watch it with them. I'm like 18, 19 years old, and they're like, you shouldn't be watching this, but this is hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it. You mentioned it earlier before we came on that you can tell Kevin Smith's from our era because all these puns and jokes and gags. I was like, I get all of them. I love them all. I get them all. I dig it, man. Movie references, pop culture references, all of it.
It was made for movie nerds, 100%.
Exactly.
Right?
Even his own movies he's spoofing and making fun of, and it's great. Just it's so much fun. It's this huge spectacle adventure that's hilarious. And I remember it's hard to remember the first time you watched it, but just I just remember being surprised by every what? You know, it's like every time you turn around, there was something else that got you. You're like, what? And it just it felt like it just kept building and building and building and getting better and better and more. It's just more. I don't know. Like I don't know what's going to happen next, and it's even more exciting when it does. So. I love this movie. This is probably like one of my all-time favorites just because I've seen it so many times. I mean, I'm not going to quote it word for word, but I could almost do it if you really wanted to. We could go scene by scene. But it's fun. It's made for people like me, I guess. Yeah. There you
So
go.
if I say a line, you're going to just pick up stuff like, oh, just keep on trucking.
That was
anyway.
a great
Will Wilkins, you have seen this movie many times. I don't think anybody on the panel hasn't seen this one many times, but tell us what you think this time around on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Well, unfortunately, I'm in the realm of life now where I have exceeded the age of 50. And I only bring that up because each one of these movies that we've been watching each week is both me watching the movie again, but then it becomes this ridiculous, sappy nostalgia fest that kicks in because I am thinking about my life at that time and where I am now. And, you know, this movie, the first time I saw it, I can tell you exactly where I was because I did not understand what was going on in life at that point. I had just moved to Southern California. And after just a few months, I had lost my job. The company lost funding. And it was one of those things where I was still trying to somehow stay relevant in a business that I thought I wanted to be in. Because at the time I was hosting a tech podcast in Southern California. And so I then podcasting really hadn't become a thing. And I was posting just shows as though my radio show was continuing, just not on the air anymore. And one of the things I did, I think I might have reached out about, no, actually it was something else. In a previous venture, I had done a special on Kevin Smith and Dogma because of a special screening. Sorry. I'm taking you guys on a journey. And you're just asking me, what do you think about this movie?
No,
but I want to connect all the dots because it's like, how the hell did this happen?
If you want to hear the story about Dogma,
yeah,
go to the previous episode. He can link down on that there.
And what happened? I don't know. We had our podcast, but suddenly became the Chronicles of Will. We're not happy about it, but we only got to deal with them for one more show. That's what everybody's thinking. So anyway, Kevin had reached out. I think he found out I was in Southern California and he reached out saying, hey, can I get a copy of that special? And I'm like, of course you can. And then I had to panic trying to figure out where I could find a copy of it again, but I pulled it off. So out of work, trying to stay relevant, have a wife, brand new house, payments. What the hell am I going to do? And then just, I got a thank you for the tape I dropped off and said, by the way, if you and your wife want to see the movie, there's a media screening happening here, which it turned out was at the what would become the old Jim Henson studio, or the Jim Henson Studios.
Nice.
And so I got to see it, not with the audience I probably wanted to see it with, but I got to see it. So I know exactly where I was. And then in the continued story of how the hell this is happening, I can tell you where I was the second time I saw it. Because for some reason, even though I got to the screening, one day the doorbell rings and there's somebody I don't know, and he's like, here, this is for you. I'm like, what is it? He's like, I don't know, man, open it. And he left.
You've been served.
So yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh well, this is it, they're coming for everything. And it was actually 2 tickets to the premiere of the movie. and the after party,
Oh,
which was an amazing experience. And I got to meet and talk to Mark Hamill at a Sunday bar
Oh, nice.
at the after party. So the whole point is this whole movie just takes me back to every one of those screenings and everything that was going on in my life, because it was this perfect whirlwind of things being set up that I never realized until like almost a decade after that. And so that movie just amuses me. I can also tell you the other thing I love about this movie is that it was, I think, the first time I got additional recognition from Kevin Smith online because of the use of a guy. It's in the final shots of the movie when they're taking Justice off to jail. If blink and you'll miss it, and there is a guy in the background carrying scaffolding from left to right, or right to left, I guess the direction doesn't matter, which is a callback to the guy that was constantly carrying scaffolding in Mallrats in the background. This one guy just carrying a piece of scaffolding every time you turn around. And I'm like, was that a callback? And he's like, yes, good eye. At which point I'm like, oh, notice me, senpai, notice me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what that meant at the time either. So I have so much that I love about this movie. I can't watch a single frame of it without being entertained, because it's just so closely ingrained in the DNA of a very magical and weird time in my life. So, you know, that's the beautiful thing about movies, I guess, is the most important thing I can say about it, is that not only is Hollywood bullshit, but also a good movie can bring you back to exactly where you were at a time that was relevant for some reason. So but also in the clinical breakdown, it's obviously Kevin Smith's best attempt at a Looney Tunes film. Just it does not have any of those cartoon characters,
right?
You know, it has that much folly, and it allows for that much nonsense to occur. I mean, and it's also an interesting choice at what at that time it had to have easily been over a decade. Oh yeah, because almost 2 decades to make a callback reference to Elliot and E.T. going in front of the moon on a bicycle.
Right.
It was just like that. I've never asked, and I'm never going to get confirmation, but I've always wondered if that was just like, I always wanted to have this moment as well at the time, and now I'm having it. And the inclusion of Jason Biggs and the Dawson,
the
James
Dawson.
Van Der Beek. Oh, this
James
movie has got
Van Der Beek.
so many cool people in it too, including Judd frickin' Nelson.
I know.
Remember the Great Ape Family. Anyway, I love this movie so much, and I apologize. I yield my time. I'm making an oath now. I will wait 4 beats before I say anything else before I say anything again on this episode.
We had you as a guest so we could hear your stories. Do not stress. Although I do want to know, did Mark Hamill have anything like crazy at the Sunday bar, or was it just like he?
I was hyperventilating because I'm like, I'm gonna get some ice cream, and then I look over and it's Mark Hamill, and I'm just, guys, I have zero chill. I know I have zero chill. So I think I just kind of froze up at a sense of self-preservation. And he's just like, this is pretty amazing. It is. I'm like, it's my first premiere and it's pretty impressive. Yeah. And he said, well, have a great time. And then he walked away. And I'm just like, inside. Outside, I'm sure people were just like, did they hire a statue, a human statue for this event?
Right.
So that's all it was.
He's luring you to the Sunday bar. See, somebody's using it.
Yeah, but I believe when he walked away in hand, it was something very simple, actually, just like chocolate ice cream and some sprinkles.
Nice.
That's what I was hoping. Janine, I saw you posted that you were watching this, of course, last night. What do you think of Jane
at the same time as Brian?
Right.
I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie a couple of times, and it's just a beautiful illustration of how well Kevin knows his audience. Like, he's doing the thing that other people have done, particularly what other people have done at this time, but still finds a way to do it in his own way. Definitely a film for movie nerds. All of the references were great. I mean, I think if you know me, you know how much I love Scream. So seeing a living silly Wes like just made my heart smile. I mean,
oh my god!
if you yes, if you thought my Con Air diary entries were cringe, I have a Dawson's Creek binder that I made in high school.
Oh, Lord.
So yeah, seeing James Vanderbeek, my Dawson Funko Pop right here. So I mean, seeing him pop up in this film was incredibly hilarious, and just poking fun at him, Jason Biggs poking fun at their roles. I mean, all of the in-jokes kind of referencing these people's movies felt very much like low-hanging fruit, but he still found a way to make them absolutely hilarious and work. I always kind of call this the comedic Follow That Bird movie. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers the Big Bird movie where, you know.
Totally. Yeah.
We're trying to find Big Bird, and like we meet all these like celebrities along the way, this like road trip film. I don't know why when I was watching it this time, that was like the comparison that popped into my head. But yeah, just so much fun.
I mean, he's literally hitchhiking in that movie.
Yes,
he is,
you know, too. Like, it's so funny.
And just meeting all these random famous people along the way.
And learning lessons as they go, like the rules of the road.
Yes. So just so many great references, so much fun, a great simple story, the callbacks to his own films, and having those fresh in my head to kind of get into those references even more was a lot of fun. So yeah, great road trip, Kevin Smith vibed movie, 100%.
Love it. Brian, I know you probably saw this in theaters like I did back in the day. What do you think?
Yeah, I've seen this one quite a few times. Although like the last time I saw it, it's been a good gap. I've actually seen Zack and Miri more recently than this film. So it was kind of nice to like revisit this again. And and just like, I love it. It's one of my favorites. And it was nice to see, you know, this is kind of the first time where it's like all about, you know, Jay and Silent Bob, really. And just like what everyone else has mentioned, like it's just cameo after cameo after cameo. And all these cameos have their own connections with each other.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have like
they talk about Shannon Elizabeth, and Shannon Elizabeth is in it playing something else.
Yes, exactly. But then you have Ali Larter and James Vanderbeek, and they were both in Varsity Blues
and Dawson's Creek. Ali Larter actually was.
Oh yeah, so there you go. So it's like all these other like cross connections with, you know, all these cameos are insane. I mean, and what like a fanboy thing it must have been to have Carrie Fisher play Nun, and you're attempting to go down on Carrie Fisher.
Yes.
Like how
and Mark Hamill as well in it. So
and then Mark Hamill and like and then Mark Hamill's basically doing his Joker voice. You know, like yes. Oh, it's so good. It's just so many fun things. And it was just like really, really great to revisit those things and see these different connections again. So
all right, Law,
my favorites.
What did you think of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back this time around? I assume you've seen this more than once. Oh no, it looks like she might be frozen. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Muted.
You are muted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in here until she is able to join us. So I am almost certain I saw this not the year it came out. I didn't see this until it came out on DVD because I was in the military in 2001, and I don't think I had time to go see this that first year. So it wasn't until after it hit release. Hey, life happens. But I have seen it about 1.5 billion times. To the point, I think, of like Keys said, I kind of just can recite it. It's a little ridiculous. And I love movies that are for movie fans. So I love movies that are willing to.
I've seen this about 1 billion times for some reason.
Oh. Uh-oh. We've got technical problems. Anyway, so as soon as I'm done, we will get to Law. So yeah, I love movies that are for fans, that are for movie fans. How Kevin got some of these cameos is still like, how did you do that? This is literally the first film that Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill were in together since Return of the Jedi. So how did you do that? We already know you were working with George, so I see how you got him to come back. And apparently George made this movie NC-17, so they cut most of his scenes because they were too graphic. And with what you see in the film, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
for sure.
So yeah, there's obviously some stuff that's still very like not appropriate now. It is a movie of its time, but at the same time, it is a movie making fun of all film in a lot of ways, as well as Hollywood, as well as indie film, because they're making fun of Miramax the whole time, which is great.
Oh yeah. Having the villain from Good Will Hunting come back.
Right. Like everybody came back. So apparently he wanted his goal was to have Jean Favre and Vince Vaughn play those two characters so he can like kind of make a joke. Swingers, right? But then that didn't work out. So he was like, nah, I'll force my friends to come back and do it. Which is great. I read so much trivia about this movie because there's so much. The girl that's standing in front of them in line for the extras scene is actually wearing the dude's jacket from The Big Lebowski. Like you can see her wearing the exact jacket that he wears, which I was like, what the hell? But that was 3 years later, so it makes sense. That might have been just laying around. I don't know. There's something really sweet about the ending of this film. Any movie that stops on the main characters with good music playing, I don't know what it is, but it gets me just right in the emotions. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but I'm just
that
like,
felt
this
like
was
it
really
was
funny,
That felt like it was like Kevin Smith and Jason. Like it didn't feel like Jay and Silent Bob in that moment. It felt like it was just kind of a fun like B-roll.
And they made it a full circle moment to something
exactly.
that
It felt like
at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it felt like this genuine moment between the two of them as actors and filmmakers, and friends.
Right?
So,
right. Lala, I can hear you now. Can you hear us? Oh, okay. We could not hear you and you were frozen, so that's really strange. Tell us about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Trash Movie didn't like it. It appears that we are not seeing you in the live, so I'm not sure what's going on there. So it's not being broadcast out to the YouTube. So that's very strange. Have fun, La. I'm so sorry. Okay. Technical problems, when you have podcasts that happen over the span of 3,000 miles, it can definitely have problems. That said, we can get right back into this. Sounds like she didn't like it, which I thought she had seen this one before. So that's interesting. I do want to hear her thoughts. Hopefully next week we can at least get a breakdown or at least hear something on her TikTok. That said, do you guys think that ultimately Kevin wanted this to be the last of the Jay and Silent Bob? And that's, again, kind of going back to the ending that I mentioned. The way they ended it felt like, hey, this is the final moment of these two. Do you guys feel that was his intent, or?
I don't know. I didn't feel that. Like even when the first time I watched this, I didn't feel like it was like
kind of
wrapping all
finale
this stuff with yeah. I felt like there's still more. I felt like it probably could have ended there, and they would have been fine. But I feel like it could have still kept going. Yeah,
it didn't feel definitive as an ending.
Yeah, right.
That's a good way to put it. Did you guys know that the whole concept of Prince and Kevin Smith, if you've ever seen an Evening with Kevin Smith #1, he goes into a beautiful story about Prince and directing his video and all these things.
Yeah, it's good.
So he asked Prince, "Can I use your song for my movie?" And he was like, "No, you can't. But you can go ahead and use Morris Day in the Time, and we'll go ahead and do that." So that's why we get Morris Day, because he's obviously Prince had the rights.
Yes.
There are a lot of little things like this. Apparently, Bon Jovi's song wasn't the choice of song for the entrance for Justice, which is okay. What I thought was great was Shannon Elizabeth actually came up with the idea of her wearing glasses because she said, Justice is blind. So she wears glasses for that. Which I love. But I love that stuff, because not only can you sink your teeth into the film, but then like you break down afterward. Like the clip that I put up about Seth Green almost making into a Kevin Smith movie again for a second time, I thought was pretty interesting. I'm glad we got what we got, though. I'm glad it was Mark Hamill, not David Duchovny. I'm glad it was Dawson and man,
Jason Biggs
and Pie Fucker. Sorry, yeah, Jason Biggs. Sorry.
I literally
the way he's
use
saying
that.
as he gets into the car.
Oh my god, I
That's his
literally
claim to fame. Like
I
you're
know.
just
Right.
shouting it at the top of your lungs.
I literally said to my wife, because Jason Biggs was coming up in another way. I think something happened with Jenny Mullen recently, who was his wife, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's married to I made that reference, and then and for a moment she's like, what? Who? And then it came to me. I'm like, Jason Biggs. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, Orange is the New Black. Like that's the way we should refer to the poor guy. Not that he was great, you know, he's a terrible character, like a terrible human. In that show, but you know, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Will Ferrell normally I don't like. Everybody knows I'm not a huge fan, but for some reason this is like
Morgan would agree with you, my co-host.
But he like
behaves.
this is his kind of thing. Like this is where he belongs. Like he fits in here really nicely. Oh god, I'm trying to think of some of the other great references that obviously come from this. But I think Holden McNeil's intro in this film, where you get to see a lot of him.
Oh
in
yeah,
his whole
that was
discussion, right.
That was the thing for me, was like how much like the way he describes like the internet, like that hasn't like changed.
Right.
Yeah. People just go on to bitch about movies. Yeah,
you
like,
know,
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and
This is what we should
yeah.
do. So.
and at this point in Kevin's timeline, he's just who's the guy who did Magnolia?
Oh yes, this is so that's PTS. Paul Thomas
Anderson.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah.
PTA, and he are just like having a thing because he had made a snide comment on the internet about Magnolia, and naturally, you know, I'm sure I can't even remember what it snowballed into at the time. But you know, that's why on the boards, like a real winner here from Magnolia fans.
Yeah,
right.
It's just like
the person's name. That's a real person's handle.
Yeah, so there's always like some little bit of a connection there to something. That so many points in that movie. It's just so that, you know, it's like part of it is the narrative of what's going on in his life at the time. So
Yeah, you do see that, right? Every time you see, every time, even Zack and Miri, every time I watch another movie of his in sequence, you're like, oh, now I see why he started to go towards horror, because he was in Pennsylvania. We'll get into that, obviously, but there's like a direct connection between each of his films. I think Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back made him go, maybe I should revisit Clerks. I really had a great time with Jay and Silent Bob again, so we should revisit these guys.
Yeah. His daughter plays the baby version of him.
Of him, yes. And his mom,
his wife, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
his
His wife, one of the
one of the thieves. His daughter is Bob's mom. Sorry, in the movie, puts his hat on and goes, "Here, I'm going to put this on your head.
Yeah.
Keep the sun out of your eyes."
Get the sun out of your eyes.
At which point you're like, yeah,
yeah,
I guess she is leaving a baby outside. So
so she would obviously not know how hats work.
Well, she was already wearing it backwards, so I think she was trying to keep the sun out of her eyes as well. So she was giving it her best. And then of course we get I think the most famous song from Jason Mewes, which is the fuck song, which is great. There's so many Easter eggs. It's like almost so many. I want to talk about all of them, but it's too many. When Tracy Morgan shows up and they're like, you know, talking about, you know, state to state.
They're the same, the same like union or whatever. Like,
unions, exactly. So cannabis unions, which is weird because now there are cannabis unions, but hey, Kevin Smith always kind of progressive in that way.
Jersey Local 404, which is a funny reference because if a web page doesn't load, it's a 404.
It's a 4,
right?
Yeah.
Apparently, Kevin signed both of those cards too, so it's Kevin and Jay have signed it to like authorize it. But they definitely, you know, obviously Miramax let them use the studio to film on set. It's such like he ultimately wanted Tarantino to be the director that Chris Rock was, but Tarantino was like, I'm not going to be in your movie. And so he's like, okay, I'll bring Chris back. And then the other one was, if you see the moment they're going to go into the extras section and they peek out from behind the van, you can actually see all the Reservoir Dogs walking down the way. You gotta like stop the movie and look at almost every frame because he just litters this thing with so many references.
I love Gus Van Sant in it too.
Oh yeah,
Like
Yeah, just counting money.
I like
he's just
action
Zach,
Gus.
you're counting money.
I told you I'm busy, Ben.
Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because my brain for Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, my brain has always just felt like they've always been famous. Like I saw Good Will Hunting, I'm like, okay, they're famous. Like I don't need to think, but they were never.
They had to they really
by the time
work their way up,
they were starting to kick off,
Yeah.
right? Which is wild to think about.
There's
and
even
it is
that
wild to
reference
think about.
there too, where they're like talking to each other about
their other films
Dogma,
and reindeer,
and like reindeer
games,
Right?
and why they do these
Trying
bad
to get
movies.
your
Like
dog.
this kind of picture before you do the
like,
acclaimed one, and then
Right.
and all the references to Phantom.
Yeah.
With the bomb and
the bomb
phantoms,
and
yo.
phantoms, yo.
Right. I love watching Ben talk about himself in that
Right.
scene too, where he's like, gives a good high five.
That's
That's weird. I didn't even think
Yeah,
about this.
that's what I'm talking about.
Brian and I did a lip sync to that scene.
Yeah, I
couple
know.
years ago.
I
totally
was
forgot
thinking about that when
that.
I watched it too. I was like, man, this is so hard to do.
It was, especially the
Doing
high
his whole-
five, man. That was hard. Like that was very hard.
Because he's got this monologue, man. Like he's got this
Well,
I'm like,
I was
yeah,
also
man.
thankful of the Reel Studies TikTok because it also highlighted for me one of the most quoted lines that I will use in life. Because if I'm ever like saying something and I like, I wish, and then I'm like, I just suddenly go into when's gonna be my time? Because I know how absurd I'm sounding and where I'm going with that talk.
Right.
And also as an avid player of Fortnite, anytime somebody talks about the map, I'm blurting out loud, "Give me the map, Scott." So I just the movie is just so much fun, and I did not realize again just how much of part of it is part of my DNA in just hearing these lines again, and just like, oh my god, yeah, I keep saying that, don't I? I keep saying that too, don't I?
Right.
And anytime anyone can't read anything in my on a road trip, I'm like, the sign on the back of the van.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And like that's another thing too. Like he's been so great about planning these moments when Bob talks, and that was like one of those where he just finally like explodes. It's like these years of putting up with Jay just like exploded right then in that moment. We're just like, oh my god.
I think Holden's speech got to him.
Which, by the way, peaks in a movie we're not going to talk about, which is Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, because there are like 2 times that he's really used there, but one of them is just straight out of oh god, what is the name of the movie? It's just a head the one, Coffee is for Closers.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah. Glengarry Glen Ross. It's him going through Alec Baldwin's whole speech.
His whole monologue. I know.
Yeah, and
so
you're just
good.
like in this moment, this is like somehow it's a perfect combination of everything that Bob has been waiting for to be able to get up and just seize this moment. And it's just like, wow. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. Bob is Kevin didn't even mean to, but he created one hell of a character for the times. Like it's I don't know. I think it's brilliant. I love how even Jay in that moment during the scene in Jay and Silent Bob is like, you can always tell that Amy story. You can never shut up about Amy.
I know.
You can't talk right now. Like, I love that. Joe Casita is in this film. He plays the pizza boy. Elijah Dushku is like, come on. A little fun. Did you guys see the poster or the like banner that they threw over their house once they did the heist? It says our 37th heist.
Oh yeah.
37 in a row. So there's a ton of 37s in this movie, which was great. And we get Joey and or I guess we get the Alyssa character and the character from Mallrats actually showing themselves as sisters, which is great. Ron O'Hanran, Jeff, they make these fun little cameos and kind of extra stuff. Damn yous, right? I laugh so hard when he says yous. Damn yous all to hell. This is just a movie like we just sit here and quote because it's just so perfect for that reason. But anyway, I digress. Any other thoughts on Jay and Silent Bob before we move on to the porno flick? The flick about porno. Sorry, I said that wrong.
Just like,
Yes.
did I not understand the assignment?
I know.
It's a parody of Zack and Miri, right? It's not a never mind. Okay. Anyway, any other thoughts about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? Doesn't seem like it. All right. Let's go ahead and rate it and see what everybody thinks. Mickey, you were first. What do you rate Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back? Remember, the rating system is yours and yours alone.
Oh, it's 10 out of 10, man.
All right.
I mean,
Nice.
it's not the perfect film, but it is the perfect film for me. Like,
Right.
I'll never not have fun watching it. And as you guys are all saying, like, there's so many life moments where I use quotes from that movie to reference it because they just fit, you know. I don't know how many times I do the Tracy Morgan, like, I don't know what you're saying, man, but
God, I know.
me, like, I do that to my kids all the time. I don't say it. I don't know what you're talking about, man, but you're special to me. So
you have the reference there, and it's living.
Yeah.
That's great.
Plus, I love Tracy Morgan. Like,
Yeah.
he's just,
It'll always be a part of my, Will said it, like, life journey. Like, so many things I can remember from my little brothers watching it and all that stuff and talking to friends about it like this. So yeah, it may not be a technical masterpiece, but to me, it's a 10 out of 10.
Love it. Will.
Same, man. It's just, like I said, it's just too much a part of me to turn my back on it and be arbitrary in any way, shape, or form. You know, like if I were looking at it from an overall story, if I remove all the nostalgia and everything out of it, you know, honestly, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10, but because of everything else, it's a 10 out of 10. If for no other reason than for some of the great memes we've gotten out of TikTok, because this movie introduced us to Afro Man because I got high.
Right?
Oh, man.
Which Jane he managed to get it before most anybody knew the song, and that's what helped kick its popularity.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Janine.
I mean, in comparison to other films like it, and just being really great at what it does, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I had a lot of fun rewatching it.
Love it. Brian.
Yeah, it's a 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Trying not to copy, right? There's a kind of
I want to see what Susan say. I was like,
right.
I mean, we literally were like watching at the same time.
At the same time, yeah.
What's happening?
It gotta be different.
Myself, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I'm much like the other two gentlemen. Very much kind of helped define the way I looked at comedy. It is kind of the last spoof that I like, because spoofs after this kind of fall down and don't do very well. So it's almost like the last good spoof in my mind, or farce, if you will, is what I meant.
And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this the Muppet movie? In a way,
in a way,
Follow That Bird, Muppet movie.
Yeah. Anyway.
Speaking of which, just why not? We're already talking about Kevin Smith. Apparently, he's going to be putting the Muppet movie on at the SMODCO, so you guys should, if you live in that area, give that a watch.
Yeah, that is like Friday the 5th. You can watch the Muppet movie with him. And then Saturday the 6th, I believe. But go to smodcastleCinemas.com to verify this if you're in the area, tri-state area and around. But there's also a it's a Watch with Kev Christmas free flick is what it's called. He can't say what the name of the movie is, and I think it's a free showing, so free tickets if they're even still available.
Wow.
But he said you would have a hard time something tying in the word die to it. So, you know, you do the math. You'd have a hard time not dying with joy watching this movie. Extrapolate what you will. So yeah. Sorry,
Fern
I don't know
Gully.
why I went into
It's a
commercial
Fern Gully
mode.
movie.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's it.
I might have to make a 3.5-hour drive for that.
No, I wish I could.
Yeah, unfortunately it's too far away for me. Otherwise, I would absolutely be down there. You just got to get a private jet, and then I can just fly down.
There you go.
No problem. Link in the bio if you want to support the private jet for Mr. Snippet. That said, we're going to move on to the second movie of the evening, which is the other really raunchy, ridiculous comedy from Kevin Smith called Zack and Miri Make a Porno. And before we get into the movie, when I worked at Hollywood Video back in 2008, when this movie came out, Hollywood Video was one of those companies that refused to put Make a Porno on the cover. And so we were forced to go to the Walmart in the area and buy, I don't know, 100 copies or 50 copies, whatever we bought, in order to post them. And they all just said Zack and Miri. So for the longest time, the copy that I took home said Zack and Miri and did not say Make a Porno. So I kind of made it a point during these promos to do my best to really emphasize the real name. TikTok, of course, I had to get weird about it.
Hashtag sensitive, yeah.
Right. But I love the title card because it actually has lips for the other O, so you can't see that it says porno. Anyway, I digress. Janine, what did you think of Zack and Miri Make a Porno this time around?
Yeah, it'd been a while since I'd seen it, so I forgot how fun this movie was, and with the context that you gave last week of it kind of being his attempt to do the Judd Apatow thing. I definitely,
I tainted the waters. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, it really kind of put that in my head as I was watching it. But I still found a lot of Kevin Smith in there that I enjoyed.
No, totally. Yeah.
And kind of the romantic subplot that's in there ultimately makes this whole film like a rom-com, and so that is my genre of choice. So having all this kind of ridiculousness around it was a lot of fun. Also getting to see Kevin Smith regulars not as the characters we know them as was really fun as well. So yes, I love the story setup, the dynamic between the two, and I'm really a little offended at all of the making fun of giant panties because I mean, it's a thing. I'm sorry, it was laundry day.
I know.
It helped though, but it's a positive thing. It helped her gain the fame she needed in order to push.
Yes, very much. But yes, all the making fun of giant granny panties. I mean, sometimes it's what you got. No judgment, please. But I mean, really funny. Great to see everyone kind of in a different vein. Loved that it ultimately was a rom-com, but it doesn't go into it really kind of playing that way. Felt like what was happening at the time with Judd Apatow and the Brat Pack and all of those films, but still very much of Kevin Smith. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, I've seen this one quite a few times actually, and relatively recently before seeing it for the show. And there's like a lot of stuff that Janine said. It was good to see Jason not as this Jay character, and he's really great in this role, and seeing some of the other regulars, if you will, and he's still able to find these references. I mean, they're using the hockey stick as a boom pole, which they literally did on Clerks, right? They had to use, you know what I mean? So that was a reference to his own filmmaking. Just fun things like that, which I would watch them, and part of my filmmaking brain, I'm you're not gonna get, you're getting terrible audio right now. You're not even using that thing properly.
It's not working how you think
you're not. So the audio,
and the camera they're
quality
using is not.
I know. I'm thinking about all. I know. I'm no, this is really terrible. But yeah, it is. I mean, I love Seth Rogen and I love Elizabeth Banks too. I feel like she was perfect for this. She has this really great laugh, and the way she I don't know. I feel like she has really good laugh acting, if that's a thing. She's able to say so much as just her laugh. It's so fun, and yeah, it was just it's a fun watch. I think there are some things though if you want to dig into the serious nature of the adult film world, and there are some cliche things in here, of course, that might rub some people who actually work in that industry the wrong way.
Kind of stereotyping what people think.
Why people, or
films,
or why people would go. Why people would go into that industry is because they only have no options. When nowadays it's actually
Pretty
people
kind
are
of
choosing to
lucrative,
go into that.
regular.
Yeah. And like have all their own boundaries around it, and their own like really making
Yeah.
their own
Mhm.
decisions around it. Yeah.
Well, there's a
So
weird safety to online. Like you
Mhm.
keep yourself safe by keeping the screen between you and your clients, which is way different than even older stuff. You have to go to public to watch these things. Now you don't have to do that.
Yeah. And I mean like the actors like choosing to go into that industry. They like there's a line that Seth Rogen talks about like you have to be like destitute to go in there or have like no
other choice. Yeah.
Yeah, you have like no self-respect to go into it, which like
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people that are in that industry would argue that.
Yeah,
thing. But
that's a good
so
point.
so there is something like that comes up, a little bit.
Mhm.
And again, this was like 2008, I think,
Mhm.
when this came out. So, yeah, I think we're still kind of like having those conversations. It's still kind of like a, but then again, like he talks about some other things where it's like so accessible nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, even at 2008. So he was trying to like, build it up and convince her to kind of do it. But still, like all in all, it's like one of my favorite scenes is with Craig Robinson when that customer comes in, he's like, yeah, like a coffee,
dude,
black.
Can't you see we're talking?
He's talking white.
Right.
Hilarious.
So yeah, he's really great at that. But yeah, it's still a fun watch. Yeah.
He's subtle, like he's so subtle and simple, but like he brings a nice element.
Yeah, and then the mid credit scene too of like
oh
the
little like ad.
I love that, man. That's good.
Oh, it really ties it together. You get to see they get married. Spoiler alert, they get married.
Yeah.
And they take each other's last names, which is so kind of cool. Mickey, what did you think of Zack and Miri this time around?
Surprisingly liked it. So like I had seen it once when I rented it on DVD when it first came out, and I hadn't seen it since, and I didn't remember it. I remember having some funny stuff, but I didn't remember loving it. But watching it again, I was like, no, I really like this a lot, actually. I forgot this is kind of one of the first times I saw Elizabeth Banks and kind of like fell in love with her because she's so awesome. I forgot about Justin Long's part, and I just cried the whole time laughing.
Brandon
at
Routh,
him.
I'm like,
so good.
Brandon Routh.
I know.
I forgot them, and I see videos of it on TikTok all the time, and I forget that that's from Zack and Miri.
Yeah. He's
and
so good.
Also in the future me now who loves Craig Robinson, I was like, I forgot he's in this movie and how funny he is.
Yeah.
So that was a nice treat to see again, and just there was a lot of nice little Easter eggs and like little people that I forgot were in it, and I got to enjoy it again and just laugh at the jokes. Every time I watch a Seth Rogen in a movie, I'm like, oh man, I love Seth Rogen. Then it's after I was like, later on I'll forget that I like Seth Rogen. I'll be like, no, I don't care about Seth Rogen. Then I'll watch a movie with him and I'll be like, oh wait, I forgot. I do like Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He just brings like a charm to it. Like, he just seems so natural and at ease when he's out there.
Right.
Yeah. Funny thing though, to what Brian was saying about, the people being destitute, that kind of could be a little offensive. Katie Morgan, who's an actual porn star who plays Stacy in this, became a porn star for bail money because she was transporting like,
that's funny.
I don't know, drugs or something over the Mexican border. And I was like,
my
oh my God. I don't know why I looked it up. I was like, I know her from somewhere. I was like, oh, okay.
He actually was.
One Tracy Lords is like
Tracy Lords as well, yeah.
Oh yeah, Tracy Lords is great.
Old school,
Tracy Lords is great.
She's
Like,
old school.
She read the script and went, I relate to this, and I'll make this movie. Okay.
Yeah. So
but it was cool. I forgot the high school reunion angle. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I went to my first 10-year high school reunion
the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
What was that?
Vibe of all
terrible.
that's weird.
And I was like, yeah, I totally relate this, and I will never go back to it again. It was an awful experience. So like, totally great. There's so many great moments in this movie, and it gets really heartfelt at the end. I forgot that too. Like, I thought it was just funny. I was like, no, this is pretty sweet at the end. So
yeah,
a lot of good things about this movie that I forgot that I got to,
kind of revisit.
Remember.
Yeah.
Awesome. We love that. That's great. Will, Zack and Miri make a porno.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. It's one of the least viewed of the Kevin Smith library by us. Mainly because there's always been a kid growing up in the house for the past several years now. So, but it in many ways it is endearing because it has as previously mentioned, elements of what they did in making Clerks brought into it. Little winks and nods in their ridiculous movie, right down to the point where the camera that they're using is the camera that's turned off, like they ask, and that's a reference to something that was cut from Clerks, where Randall walks in and asks, "Is the pelican flying?" At which point Dante says, "Yeah," and he goes up and he switches off the surveillance camera, which is the reason why Dante's killer would never have been caught if that was the original ending. But I really, this movie just had a lot of, it was just trying to be a comedy, and it was trying to be not controversial, but Apatow-esque. It's that writing actually was put on the wall by Kevin himself, and you can see a lot of it. I just really enjoy the movie for the performance that Banks and Rogan give. It's very well balanced. You have no problem believing these people are friends. And honestly speaking, this movie, at one point I got caught up in the moment of what was going on, because it was one of those moments where cinematically we're seeing something that's going on, but realistically something else is happening in that moment. And as the audience, we realize that, and it's a clever juxtaposition used. So it has a lot of good surprising elements for me, and it makes me laugh consistently. I'm surprised we didn't see more of Ricky Mabe after this movie. His audition, during the auditions, is just cracks me up with the cadence. I really thought we were going to see more of him after this movie. But also, again, on the nostalgia trip, the high school reunion is mainly cast. The background actors are people that used to be regulars on his web board. Long ago, there was the View Askew web board, and it was just like a bulletin board on the internet, and people could create threads and reply to it. A lot of what Reddit is now. And those are the people that are in the background, and I see them, and I'm like, hey, that's such a, because I was part of that community too. I just didn't go to the open casting call because I didn't have a lot of money and I got family to raise. So,
and it was in Pennsylvania, so it was a waste.
Yeah, right. So it's seeing all those people, and then the character of Deacon is actually named after one of those people as well. That's become a good friend of Kevin's over time. He's a Brett Deacon, and he's a friend of mine as well. And so Deacon is named after him. No Brett. So I'm. That aside, the only thing that I ever had a problem with in regards to this movie was the weird fight that occurs that ends with the basically everyone going their separate ways, and then that reconciliation. It's like that part, I don't know why I always hit a bump against it, and I don't know why. So but that's just me personally. Other than that, the movie is just, it's a good chuckle. It's a good no-brainer movie. If you want something that's also maybe just a little bit spicy.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little chocolatey, if I will.
She frosted me like a cake.
Right? Yeah, that was.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Between that and the he's like, I'm out here. Between that and the J Muse Dutch rudder.
Oh man,
the whole thing, full frontal nudity. I'm like, Jay, like I know you were bragging, but like you didn't have to prove it or nothing. I guess Kevin really wanted you to. What is it? This is a strange question. What is it with Kevin and dudes hitting on his wife in every movie?
I don't know. Maybe that's something he worked on when he went into the nut house at the beginning of last year.
Maybe. All I know is that she does, and he writes it. So no.
But that trend is broken in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Because it's actually Bob who gets the wife character, which, by the way, I don't know if she's supposed to be not Missy, whatever. I'm not sure he's supposed to be, whether that the mom from that or the mom from Yoga Hosers. The
mom from Yoga Hosers is the one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, that is kind of it does make you wonder.
So weirdly enough, before I saw this movie, or maybe right at or right before, my wife and I had actually already been watching Katie Morgan, not in pornography, but she had her own television show on HBO where she did her whole show in the nude. And it was her comedy show, which was really weird, but it was funny and it was all completely sexualated. And then we saw this movie and we went, whoa, okay, cool. And she's great in it. I think that most people in the film are better than people ever gave them credit. Jeff Anderson, you only get to see him as Randall. So when you get to see him as this cameraman, you're like, oh man, I love him in the beginning, like as the hockey player, and he just get out of the guy. He's like, what did he say? I'm gonna skull fuck you to death, right? Or something like that. Like really, really raunchy, which I love. It really does. It's like a very typical rom-com with all this pornography just kind of thrown on it, like just smattered onto it, which I think works really, really well. I think one of my favorite moments, though, is that moment where it almost like clicks for everybody when Tyler Levine's character comes in and asks for coffee because he just got done with the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and they're like, "Oh yeah, free coffee, come on over," and he's like, "Hug it, chug it, football," and then Jay was like, just right off that,
he incorporates that into it. I know.
Right? Which I was like, that's genius. The other really big scene, I love the ending, much like Janine was talking about. I really love the like sweetness of it, but I love where we get to see them do the worst porno in the history of porno, and with the milk and everything that he drops, and then they keep running into crap. But when they lay down, I love how Kevin goes, okay, switch. He switches the camera completely over, goes back to the normal film camera, and we get to see their moment. And I think that's so beautiful. Like it's so subtle but so beautiful. And it's
lighting's
just
completely different.
Right. Everything is so different, but it's
focused on them.
It's such a perfect transition, and it really brings me into what's going on with them. And I think, as people who, if anybody's ever dated anybody else, before their significant other, and they've seen, roommates, you're like, oh, should I date this roommate? I think everybody's had something similar to where you're like, do I like this person, or are we just friends? And so I think there's a relatability to the two characters in that way. Elizabeth Banks, Seth Rogen, I think is just genius. We don't really have to go too much into him because he hits it all the time. But Elizabeth Banks, I think, outdoes him in a way because her subtlety is so profound. The line that for hers that sticks out to me is, "You're gay and I'm on the internet wearing a diaper." I absolutely just love her delivery. And then she talks about, of course, I'm gonna go get drunk until I pass out. Apparently it was their 10-year high school reunion, if you guys could believe that.
I know.
That was hard for me to swallow. Swallow my cockatoo.
Movie magic.
Movie magic. She's also 8 years older than him, which I thought was interesting. And yet they don't look that way.
No.
And then you guys caught the whole Dawn of the Dead thing that I put up. And there's even more because they even talk about Dawn of the Dick. I think it's one of the movies they plan on making and then don't. So there's a lot of weird references, and this is what I meant. So there's all these references because of where they filmed the movie, and then the next movie he makes is Red State, right? And it's like interesting.
And isn't Tom Savini is the guy who rents them?
Yes. There are two Dawn of the Dead actors in the film, which is great.
I love that we're referencing all these things, and it's always like, oh my god, I just heard about that recently. Oh, that was the Real Studies thing. Or like back when Idle Hands came up in the news, and I'm like, wait, I just heard about that. It was.
You're like, oh yeah, we did.
It was just on TikTok. I know we're regurgitating. It's Sunday. We're much like the last week tonight.
You're not regurgitating. You're bringing up good points, but
that goes to show you the Real Study is the place to get this information.
Exactly.
There you go.
If you're
I was ahead of the curve.
Fingers on the pulse.
Right. No, I love it.
I don't know if this is a reference to, but like Justin Long's character is named Brandon, and Brandon Routh is
his boyfriend.
Right.
So his name is Bobby Long. Justin Long, Brandon Routh. So their names together make Also,
I love I love their like interaction where like Brandon Routh It feels like Justin Long is just like going on a like
all of that is improv.
Rant.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, that was
Brandon's
totally
just
improv.
like,
okay, I guess I just gotta go with this. I don't know what's happening right now.
Don't break. That's all he's telling himself is don't break, because Justin's just going for it.
He's
like,
going on
so
about
good.
the flower.
Yeah.
Whole metaphor.
They're all filled up. They don't know what's going on.
You could. There's a couple times where it's like, he doesn't know how he's going to finish that sentence, and you can tell he's like, you big dick or something.
Man, and just it's so good.
No,
it's
the
fun
line
just
where
watching
he's
Brandon
like,
Ralph like trying to
try to react to these things.
Justin's line where he's like, where he almost like he flubs it and he's like, I just want to stick my dick in it or something. Like he really flubbed it in that moment, but it works. I don't know, it works.
Yeah.
And again, we mentioned this last week, but that character Brandon St. James is technically the character from Reboot, who is a lawyer.
He plays a lawyer there, though.
That first represents Jay and Bob, and
then turns around
Jay
and
and
like,
Bob.
he like literally walks across the courtroom to the other table and just like
in what was the most exaggerated walk.
Totally.
Part of me, for the ridiculousness of these two films, almost wishes we could set aside Red State and do Tusk and Yoga Hosers, just because I'm not sure if all of you have even seen Yoga Hosers.
I haven't.
I have not.
Yeah.
I started it. Never.
I almost think it might be worth it just to see what everybody thinks, because it's not your normal Kevin Smith film by any stretch of the imagination. It's still kind of Clerks, because it's two girl clerks in Canada. So it's like Clerks in Canada with Nazi bratwurst. But hey, I know.
I look, man, that's all in what I consider the fever dream era. I was just sitting there going, wait, you this walrus and the carpenter thing is real?
Right.
But I guess that's something to talk about later.
Well, and Tusk and Yoga Hosers are in the same universe. So while they technically are all in the Viewist universe, they're in their own Tuskverse, where the same detective character is in both movies, Johnny Depp.
They're his Canadian trilogy.
Yeah, which we never got.
We have not gotten Moose Jaws yet. No.
Which I love. Just the concept of the name is so ridiculous that it's.
Well, it's supposed to be a frame-by-frame recreation of Jaws,
right?
But instead of a shark, it's a moose.
Right. So,
man.
Right. Which I want, right? Because he's so obsessed. He's already shown his obsession with Jaws throughout multiple films, right?
But I think part of that. I mean, like, and I don't know personally, and God knows, I hope he doesn't watch this, but and I only say that because I'm gonna say that I think there's been a bit of hyperbole built up around it, but realistically, when it comes to the implementation, just imagine what you're putting your DP through when you're trying to constantly, because there's only one way you can do it, and that is to literally look at the frame, then you build your frame to that.
You gotta know Jaws inside.
It's crazy, you know.
But you gotta get that Zolly shot down.
You gotta work in it. That's a bad hat Harry comment. So
right.
There's all that stuff. I'm just saying, I think there's a bit of hyperbole built into talking about Moose Jaws, and in the end, it would still be something like, but I just can't imagine putting in that level of effort.
So would they be out in like a wagon hunting the moose or something?
Yeah, they wouldn't be out on a boat.
I don't know.
I know.
I have never read a script. I haven't had the balls to ask.
I'm curious.
He could just talk to Gus, because he knows about shot for shot remake.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which recently, what's funny is we bring up all these little things, and I hate to sound like a plug plant, but literally, both on his new podcast he does with his daughter, Beardless Dickless Me. I didn't create the title. And
only Kevin would.
So that's on iHeartRadio, and then for that Kevin Smith Club, they do an after show, which is Beardless Dickless Plus. And I only bring it up because we're hitting on so many things that he has recently brought up on those podcasts. Gus Van Sant doing the shot for shot remake of Psycho. Last Later, why did you do it? I just wanted to see what happened. It's like, well, okay, that's one way to burn, your Hollywood cred, but good for you. and then what horror movies he has liked, kind of leading into. And then when you see his horror movies, you understand where some of the inspiration comes in, because he was like major fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacres 1 and 2. And one of his original movies that compelled him, I'm burning material for next week. But there was the Steven Spielberg movie, I think it was called Chase or Duel,
yeah,
and also Racing with the Devil. So there's just it's all coming up recently too, and I don't understand the way the universe works now, and my brain is broken. I apologize.
No, the universe is keeping itself shrouded to everyone.
Look, if you're listening to this and you're a Kevin Smith fan, and I'm saying anything that surprises you, I guess I've done my due diligence to help educate. Let me think of it that way instead of being, as I unfortunately put it in reference to what we've discussed already about Make a Porno, I am a plug whore. So
well, and Kevin is a media whore, so like that works. So you guys are two sides of the coin. It works really well. Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think most people don't have a Smithification, but they need one because they set him aside. I think he underrates himself, I think, intentionally to be funny, but I think that his films have a lot more to say than people give them credit for. And even Jay and Silent Bob has more underlying and just talking about various little things that I think people ignore, which is interesting.
Well, like I told you, when he competed on the Schmodown, his Schmodown name was Kevin Good Enough Smith. Right? Very much underrating himself.
Did he win that one? I didn't ask you that. Did he win that round?
I think he did, because he did a couple. He did one where he played Chris Jericho, and I think he won.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so this has been another episode of The Real Study. We are going to rate, of course. Why don't we go ahead and do this in the same order? Janine, I started with you. Rate Zack and Miri.
Something I just didn't mention is I love movies when characters kind of create this found family, and that was a really sweet element in this film, which I really enjoyed. So I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
The power bill scene, right, where they pay off the power.
Yes,
that was great.
And a little dance
party.
Dance break.
Craig Robinson.
That's my best, right? I was trying to do my best. Mickey, what do you think of Zack and Miri?
I wanted to mention to Will's point earlier about that little fight at the end that gets real weird. Like, I was very frustrated because I was like, this is just a communication issue. Like, just bleep and say it, man. This is so weird.
Keep them apart for just
a
few frames.
Yeah, I got it. But anyway, I was very happy to watch it again. I'm glad I got to revisit it. It's really good. I think it's underrated for what it is. I will give it a 8 out of 10 as well.
All right. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to copy Mickey, not Janine. I'm giving it an 8.
So you're copying his 8, not her 8?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I copied hers. He copied mine.
So you have a copy of a copy.
Technically.
It's really a 4.
So it's like a 7.9.
It's just fading slightly.
Back
to the Future style.
I'm sorry. I wasn't told there was math.
You've been doing all that measuring and math for your racks, so you're probably burnt out on that.
Too much.
Yeah, too much.
Our producer, Aina, who is amazing. If you guys aren't following her as well, please do go follow her on all social media. She follows us, so you can find her following us on everything if you want to. AYEENA, just putting it out there. She will do all the math for us. I just wanted to put that out there. We don't need to do the math. Myself, I'm going to give this one. Oh, I think I'm going to copy. I'm going to give it an 8 too. I think this is a great movie. I think it's definitely worth rewatching. But the frosted cake and Dutch rudder scenes make me not go back as often, I think. But hey. All right. I wanted to say thank you to Will Wilkins for being here for this 3rd episode of the Kevin Smith Month. And thank you to the voice of the Real Study, CellphoneWalletKeys, for being here as well. We really loved your insights. Thank you to Brian and Janine as well. Law, I hope you are still hearing us, and we do miss you and wish we could have heard what you had to say. We know it would have been insightful. That said, this has been episode 9 of season 4 of the Real Study, and we do appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you next week. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.